My name is Riley Harper, and for 12 years I thought my best friend was my soulmate. The sister I never had. The person who knew me better than anyone else in the world. I was wrong about everything. When I found her in my childhood bedroom, wearing my mother's wedding dress, kissing my fiancé, I thought that was the worst betrayal possible. I had no idea how deep the knife actually went. Let me back up. This story doesn't start with the dress or the kiss. It starts 12 years earlier, when I met Vanessa Chin at a college orientation mixer in Boston. I was 18, anxious, and desperately homesick for my small town in Vermont. She was confident, beautiful, and somehow saw something worth befriending in my awkward, overthinking self. "You look like you need rescuing," she'd said, handing me a drink. "I'm Vanessa. Let's be friends." And just like that, we were. Vanessa became my everything. My roommate, my study partner, my adventure buddy. When my anxiety got bad, she'd talk me down. When her parents pressured her about grades, I'd help her study. We were the kind of friends people envied, finishing each other's sentences, sharing clothes, planning our futures together. After college, we moved to Portland together. Got an apartment in the Pearl District that we could barely afford. She worked in marketing, I worked as a graphic designer. We threw dinner parties, took weekend trips, and built a life that felt like the perfect blend of independence and sisterhood. Then I met Daniel. He was a software engineer, quiet and thoughtful, the opposite of my usual type. We met at a coffee shop when he accidentally grabbed my latte, and somehow that awkward encounter turned into a first date, then a second, then a relationship that felt easy and right. Vanessa loved him. Or at least, that's what she told me. "He's perfect for you, Riley," she'd gush. "He balances you out. You're so lucky." When Daniel proposed after 2 years, Vanessa cried harder than I did. She insisted on being my maid of honor, started planning my bachelorette party immediately, and seemed genuinely thrilled for my happiness. My family loved her too. My parents, Linda and Robert Harper, treated her like a second daughter. My older brother Beck and his wife Jessica always included her in family events. Even my grandmother, Nana Grace, who didn't warm up to people easily, adored Vanessa. "That girl has a good heart," Nana would say. "You're lucky to have a friend like that." I believed it. I believed all of it. The cracks started small. So small I almost didn't notice them. Vanessa started showing up to our apartment later and later, always with vague explanations about work drinks or networking events. She'd come home smelling like cologne that wasn't hers, her hair slightly mussed, her makeup smudged. "New guy?" I'd tease. "Just exploring my options," she'd say with a mysterious smile. Then she started asking weird questions about Daniel. What time did he get home from work? What were his favorite restaurants? What kind of flowers did he like? Weird question, but I answered anyway, sunflowers, because they were cheerful. "I want to get him something nice for helping me fix my laptop," she explained. It seemed sweet at the time. The wedding was set for October, a small ceremony at my parents' property in Vermont. The old Harper family house sat on 50 acres of forest and had been in our family for 3 generations. My parents had converted the barn into an event space, and we were planning a rustic, intimate celebration. Vanessa threw herself into wedding planning with an intensity that felt almost excessive. She had opinions on everything: the flowers, the cake, the seating chart, even my dress. "You should try something more modern," she'd say, eyeing my choice of a simple A-line gown. "Something that really makes a statement." But I loved my dress. It was classic, elegant, and felt like me. 6 weeks before the wedding, my parents invited us up to Vermont for the weekend to finalize details. Daniel had to work, so it was just Vanessa and me making the drive north through peak foliage season. The Harper house looked like something out of a magazine, a restored 1920s farmhouse with wide porches and views of the mountains. My childhood bedroom was exactly as I'd left it, twin bed with a patchwork quilt, bookshelves full of young adult novels, photos of high school friends on the walls. "God, I love this place," Vanessa said, spinning around in the middle of the room. "It's so, you. So authentic and cozy and perfect." We spent Friday evening going over wedding details with my mom, tasting cake samples, and laughing over old photo albums. Everything felt perfect. Saturday morning, I drove into town to pick up supplies for the rehearsal dinner. Mom came with me, and we spent hours at the local farmers market and specialty shops. Vanessa said she was tired and wanted to nap. When we got back around 3 p.m., the house was quiet. Too quiet. "Vanessa?" I called out, setting down bags of groceries. No answer. I climbed the stairs to my childhood bedroom and pushed open the door. The scene before me didn't make sense at first. My brain couldn't process what my eyes were seeing. Vanessa was standing in front of my full-length mirror, wearing my mother's wedding dress. The vintage 1985 gown that had been carefully preserved in the attic, the one my mother had shown me just days ago, saying maybe I'd want to wear it or incorporate elements into my own dress. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was Daniel. My fiancé. Standing behind her, his hands on her waist, kissing her neck while she smiled at their reflection. "Riley!" Vanessa spun around, her face cycling through shock, panic, and then something else. Something calculating. Daniel stepped back like he'd been burned. "This isn't we were just." I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I just stood there, frozen, while my entire reality shattered around me. My mother appeared behind me in the doorway. I heard her sharp intake of breath. "What is going on here?" Mom's voice was ice. Vanessa's face crumpled into tears. "Linda, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. I've been wanting to tell Riley, but I didn't know how." "Tell me what?" I finally found my voice. "Daniel and I." She looked at him, then back at me. "We've fallen in love. We didn't mean for it to happen, but we can't help how we feel." The room spun. "How long?" 6 months, Daniel said quietly, not meeting my eyes. 6 months. Half a year. While planning my wedding. While living in my apartment. While pretending to be my best friend and my future husband. "Get out," I whispered. "Riley, please, let me explain," Vanessa started. "Get out!" I screamed it this time. "Both of you, get the fuck out of my house." My mother stepped forward, her face rigid with anger. "You heard her. Leave. Now." "But my things," Vanessa gestured to her weekend bag. "We'll ship them," Mom said coldly. "Go." I didn't watch them leave. I sank onto my childhood bed and stared at the wall while my mother sat beside me, her arm around my shoulders, neither of us saying anything. The next 48 hours were a blur of canceled vendors, returned gifts, and phone calls to confused relatives. My dad wanted to drive to Portland and have a conversation with Daniel. Beck offered to help him. I said no. I just wanted to disappear. But on Monday morning, something strange happened. My cousin Emily called. "Riley, I don't know if I should tell you this, but..." Vanessa posted something on Instagram. "I don't want to hear about her." "No, you need to see this. I'm sending you a screenshot." The image appeared on my phone. It was Vanessa, wearing my mother's wedding dress, standing in my childhood bedroom. The caption read, "Sometimes the universe redirects us to where we're truly meant to be. Grateful for authentic love and the courage to follow my heart. Hashtag true to myself, hashtag new beginnings, hashtag no regrets." The comments were flooded with congratulations from people who had no idea what had actually happened. "She's wearing mom's dress," I said numbly. "She took it." I called my mother. "Did you see?" "I saw," Mom said, her voice tight. "Your father is calling our lawyer." "For what?" "That dress is a family heirloom. She stole it." "And Riley, there's something else." "What else could there possibly be?" "Your grandmother's ring. The one I was going to give you for the wedding. It's gone from my jewelry box." The rage that had been building inside me finally found its focus. "I'll call you back." I hung up and immediately called my landlord. "Hi, this is Riley Harper. I need to know, did Vanessa Chin give notice on our apartment?" "Oh yes," he said cheerfully. "She said you both were moving out at the end of the month. She already paid the lease break fee." "She did what? Is there a problem?" I ended the call and immediately checked our shared bank account, the one we used for rent and utilities, empty. $4,200 gone. My hands were shaking as I started going through everything else. Our joint credit card, maxed out with charges I didn't recognize. The security deposit for the wedding venue refunded to an account I didn't have access to. Even my fucking Netflix password had been changed. This wasn't just betrayal. This was calculated theft. I called the one person I trusted completely, my brother Beck. "I need your help," I said. "And I need you to not tell Mom and Dad what I'm about to do." Beck Harper was a corporate lawyer with a specialty in contract disputes and fraud. He was also protective of his little sister to a sometimes annoying degree. Right now, that was exactly what I needed. He drove up from Boston that night. We sat in my childhood bedroom, the scene of the crime, and I told him everything. Every detail, every timeline, every stolen item and drained account. "Jesus Christ," he muttered, taking notes. "This is worse than I thought. What do I do?" He looked at me seriously. "How far do you want to take this?" "As far as it needs to go." "Then we start with documentation. Everything. Every text, every email, every financial transaction. We build a case." "A case for what?" "Theft, fraud, breach of contract. You co-signed that apartment lease, she broke it without your consent and kept the deposit. That's actionable. The wedding venue deposit was in your name. The bank account was joint. She doesn't get to just take everything." "What about Daniel?" Beck's jaw tightened. "He's a piece of shit, but unless he stole from you directly, we don't have much legal recourse." "But Vanessa? She fucked up in ways that have actual consequences." We spent the next 3 days building our case. Beck was methodical, detail-oriented, and increasingly angry as the full scope of Vanessa's betrayal became clear. She hadn't just stolen money and heirlooms. She'd been forging my signature on documents. She'd taken out a credit card in my name. She'd accessed my email and deleted messages from the wedding venue asking for confirmation, messages I never saw, which is why they refunded the deposit to my account, which was actually hers. "This is identity theft," Beck said. "This is federal crime territory." But the worst discovery came when he pulled her employment records. "Riley," he said carefully. "Where does Vanessa work?" "Some marketing firm downtown." "Why? What's the name?" I don't actually know. She always just said the agency. He turned his laptop toward me. According to her LinkedIn, she works at Harper Consulting Group. I stared at the screen. That's Dad's company. Yeah. She's been working for Dad for 8 months. Did you know that? No. He never mentioned. I stopped. Wait. He's been talking about hiring a new marketing director. Someone really talented who came highly recommended. But he never said who. We called Dad. Vanessa works for you? I asked without a preamble. There was a long pause. Yes. She asked me not to make a big deal about it. Said she wanted to prove herself without people thinking she got the job because of her connection to you. What else did she ask you not to tell me? Another pause. What's going on, Riley? Dad, what else? She borrowed some money. From the business. Said she was helping you with wedding expenses and was short on cash. I gave her an advance on her salary. My stomach dropped. How much? $5,000. Beck was already typing, pulling up my father's business accounts. Dad, I said carefully. I think you need to call your accountant. It took 3 days for the full picture to emerge, and it was so much worse than I'd imagined. Vanessa hadn't just stolen from me. She'd been systematically stealing from my entire family for months. The advance from my father's business? She'd never paid it back, and there were 2 more advances after that, each for $3,000-$5000. My grandmother's ring? She'd sold it to a pawn shop for $1,200. The wedding venue deposit? She'd told them she was me, used a fake email address, and had the $3,000 deposit sent to her account. She convinced my mother to add her to the Harper family cell phone plan temporarily and racked up $800 in international charges. She'd borrowed my father's truck for a moving emergency and returned it with $2,000 in damage. All told, she'd stolen or scammed approximately $23,000 from my family. And that didn't include the emotional damage or the value of the stolen heirlooms. We're pressing charges, my father said, his face harder than I'd ever seen it. All of them. Dad, no, Riley. This isn't just about you. This is about a predator who infiltrated our family and used our trust as a weapon. This ends now. Beck nodded. I've already contacted the DA's office. With the evidence we have, they'll definitely prosecute. What about Daniel? I asked quietly. What about him? Beck replied. Does he know what she's been doing? We found out the answer the next day when Daniel called me for the first time since I'd caught them. Riley, we need to talk. No, we don't. Vanessa told me, she said you were okay with everything. That you'd already moved on with someone else and were relieved to have an excuse to end things. I laughed bitterly. And you believed her? She showed me texts. Messages from you talking about doubts, about not being sure about the wedding. Texts that I never sent. What? She was accessing my email, Daniel. She's been catfishing you with fake messages from me. Did she also tell you she's stolen thousands of dollars from my family? That she's committed identity theft and fraud? Silence. Did she tell you she sold my grandmother's engagement ring? The one that's been in my family for 3 generations? Riley, that doesn't sound like Vanessa. No? What about the part where she stole my mother's wedding dress and posted it on Instagram like it was hers? Or the part where she drained our joint bank account and kept the apartment deposit? Or the part where she took out a credit card in my name and maxed it out? She said you gave her permission, I gave her permission to commit fraud? Jesus, Daniel. You're not this stupid. More silence. Then, quietly, what have I done? You cheated on me with someone who's been systematically destroying my life. That's what you did. I didn't know, you didn't want to know. There's a difference. I hung up. The fallout was spectacular. Beck filed both civil and criminal charges against Vanessa. The police showed up at the apartment she'd apparently been sharing with Daniel, using my money to pay the deposit, and arrested her for identity theft, fraud, and grand larceny. Her mugshot made the local news. Turns out she had a record, similar schemes in California before she moved to Oregon. She'd changed her name from Vanessa Chin to Vanessa Chin Park to avoid background checks. Her real name was Vanessa Park, and she'd scammed 2 other families before ours. She was a professional con artist, and I'd invited her into my life with open arms. The preliminary hearing was surreal. Vanessa showed up in a conservative dress, hair pulled back, playing the role of the remorseful friend who'd made mistakes. "Your Honor," her public defender said. "My client deeply regrets her actions. She was struggling with mental health issues and made poor decisions during a difficult time." Beck stood up. "Your Honor, the defendant didn't make poor decisions. She executed a calculated, multi-year con that targeted a vulnerable young woman and her family. This wasn't opportunistic theft. This was a predatory scheme." He presented the evidence, the timeline of stolen items, the forged signatures, the fake emails, the pattern of manipulation. The judge's expression grew colder with each revelation. "The defendant is remanded without bail pending trial." Vanessa's mask finally slipped. She turned and looked directly at me, and the expression on her face wasn't remorse. It was pure hatred. "You did this," she hissed as the bailiff led her away. "You ruined everything." The trial took 4 months. During that time, more victims came forward. Vanessa had run similar cons in 3 other states, always targeting successful young women with close-knit families and resources she could exploit. Her therapist, court-appointed, testified that she showed signs of narcissistic personality disorder with sociopathic tendencies. She didn't feel empathy. She felt entitled. Ms. Park views relationships as transactional, the therapist explained. She identifies targets based on what they can provide, money, status, social connections, and creates elaborate scenarios to access those resources. "So the friendship was never real?" the prosecutor asked. From Ms. Park's perspective, it was real enough to serve its purpose. I sat in the courtroom listening to a stranger describe my best friend of 12 years as a predator, and the worst part was it all made sense. The way she'd always needed something, rides, money, emotional support, but was never available when I needed her. The way she'd isolated me from other friendships, claiming they were toxic or didn't get me like she did. The way she'd inserted herself into every aspect of my life, my family, my relationship, my finances, until I couldn't imagine existing without her. She'd been grooming me. For 12 years, she'd been grooming me. Daniel testified too. He'd figured out he was also a mark. She'd been love-bombing him with attention and affection, while simultaneously feeding him fake messages from me about how unhappy I was. She'd manufactured both our betrayals. "I thought I was saving her from a bad relationship," he said quietly. "I thought I was the good guy." The jury took less than 3 hours to deliberate. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced her to 8 years in federal prison and ordered her to pay full restitution, $127,000, including emotional damages, stolen items, and legal fees. After the trial, I sat in my car in the courthouse parking lot and cried for the first time since everything started. Not because I was sad. Not even because I was relieved. I cried because I was grieving someone who never existed. My phone rang. It was my grandmother. Riley, honey. Are you okay? I don't know, Nana. Come over. I made lasagna. I drove to her house, the same small cottage where she'd lived for 40 years, and found my entire family waiting. Mom, Dad, Beck, Jessica, even my cousins. Surprise intervention, Beck said with a small smile. The good kind. We ate lasagna and drank wine and nobody talked about Vanessa. Instead, they told stories about me, funny moments, proud moments, times when I'd been there for them. You've always been the heart of this family, my mother said. That girl didn't take that from you. She never could. My father added, and for what it's worth, I'm sorry I didn't see through her sooner. I wanted to believe she was good because you loved her. We all did, Nana said. That's not a weakness, Riley. That's proof you have a good heart. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. 6 months after the trial, I got an unexpected letter. It was from Daniel. Riley, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, and I'm not asking for it. I just wanted you to know that I've been in therapy trying to understand how I let someone manipulate me into destroying the best thing in my life. My therapist says I was a victim too, but that doesn't absolve me of the choice I made. I chose to believe Vanessa's lies because they made me feel important. I chose to betray you instead of talking to you. That's on me. I don't expect you to respond. I just needed you to know that you deserved better than what I gave you, and I'm sorry I couldn't be the man you thought I was. I hope you find someone who deserves you. Daniel. I read it twice, then put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I'd forgive him. But not today. Today, I had other things to focus on. I'd started my own graphic design business. Turned out that being forced to rebuild my life from scratch gave me the courage to take risks I'd been too scared to take before. I'd made real friends, people who didn't need anything from me except genuine connection. I'd started dating again, slowly and carefully, with much better boundaries. And I'd learned the hardest lesson of all, that loving someone doesn't make them worthy of that love, and trusting someone doesn't make them trustworthy. 18 months after everything fell apart, I got one final piece of closure. The prison where Vanessa was serving her sentence had a policy allowing victim impact statements to be delivered in person if both parties consented. I consented. So did she. I don't know why I agreed to see her. Curiosity, maybe. Or a need to prove to myself that she couldn't hurt me anymore. She looked different. Prison had stripped away the carefully curated image, the perfect hair, the designer clothes, the charm. She looked small and tired and ordinary. We sat across from each other in a sterile visiting room, a guard standing nearby. Thank you for coming, she said quietly. I didn't respond. I know you probably hate me. I don't hate you, I said honestly. I don't feel anything for you at all. Something flickered across her face. That's worse. Is it? I wanted to tell you I'm sorry. Are you? Sorry that you did it, or sorry that you got caught? She was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. At least it was honest. Why? I asked. Why me? Why my family? She shook her head slowly. You were perfect. Perfect family, perfect life, perfect everything. I thought if I could just get close enough, some of that perfection would rub off on me. So you decided to destroy it instead? I didn't mean, she stopped. That's not true. Some part of me did want to destroy it. If I couldn't have it, why should you? There it was. The truth I'd been looking for. Did you ever care about me at all? I asked. even a little bit? She looked at me with empty eyes. I don't think I know how to care about people. I just know how to need them. I stood up. Then I feel sorry for you. Because needing people without caring about them means you'll always be alone. I left without looking back. 3 years after everything fell apart, I'm writing this from my own apartment, one that I chose, that I pay for, that nobody else has keys to. My design business is thriving. I have friends who show up for me without being asked. I'm dating someone kind and patient who thinks my trust issues are reasonable and never makes me feel guilty for having boundaries. My family is closer than ever. We have Sunday dinners at Nana's house and nobody talks about Vanessa anymore. She's a scar, not a wound. Sometimes people ask me how I survived it, the betrayal, the theft, the realization that 12 years of friendship was a lie. The answer is, I survived it the same way anyone survives anything. One day at a time, one choice at a time, one step forward even when I wanted to collapse. But here's what I learned. Some people see love as currency. They see trust as access. They see vulnerability as opportunity. And the only way to protect yourself from those people is to believe that you deserve better than to be used. Not everyone who says they love you is capable of it. Not everyone who seems trustworthy is actually safe. And sometimes the person you trust with your life is the person you should run from. If you've ever had someone you trusted completely betray you in ways you never saw coming, if you've ever rebuilt your life from ashes, if you've ever had to learn that loving someone doesn't obligate you to let them destroy you, share your story below. You're not alone. You're not broken. You're just learning to protect the gift of who you are from people who see it as something to exploit, and that's not cold. That's survival.